Hello, everyone. I'm getting myself set up. I just want to say welcome to the Library 2.025 Worldwide Virtual Conference. You are attending the Innovative Library Creativity, Change, and Impact Conference. My name is Amanda Hunt. The session title of what we're going to be discussing for the next 30 minutes is Mic Drop Moments, Student Podcasting Using Adobe Express. So make sure that your audio and your video are turned off. Do not turn them on or play with them as it will interrupt me. Click on the chat to connect with other participants, and then make sure that you are using the hashtags Library 2025 and hashtag Innovative Library. So let's go ahead and take a second to thank our founding partner and sponsor, SJSU School of Information. Alrighty, let's get to it. So you'll notice that this is not an actual presentation that you would normally see. It is a landing page that I created in Adobe Express. So mic drop moments. This right here is the shortened link so that you can have access to this this virtual web page that we have for you. It has links on it. It might give you some more ideas. So please take a moment to visit and bookmark adobe.ly/4 lowercase n 1 JS uppercase K uppercase P. All right. I will scroll up to this at the end for anybody that missed that. But like I said, my name is Amanda Hunt. I am a library media specialist in Texas at a middle school. I'm also the secondary lead librarian for our district. I am an Adobe innovator, which just means that I love to share all the things about Adobe Express with the world because I find it to be so useful in the classroom and the library. And then I am a student voice and choice advocate. And what that means is I want my students to feel like they are in control of what they are putting out into the world. And I love giving them that independence and that confidence to be successful with that. This is just some more information about me, certifications, EdTech badges that I have. Today, we're going to learn how students use Express for podcast graphics, promo videos, storytelling support, making sure that you get buy-in from your admin and your ELA teachers, and then some strategies to keep students engaged and motivated, as well as ways to integrate podcasts into your curriculum, and then a ready-to-use workflow and tech toolkit, no studio required. So why podcasting? Podcasting, I believe, builds an authentic communication. It helps students learn media literacy skills. It engages reluctant writers and readers with a brand new medium that is something that is popular to them. They understand what a podcast is. And it creates opportunity for collaboration and leadership, as well as campus stories and student perspectives brought to life. So, Adobe Podcast is free for all educators and students through Adobe for Education. If you're unsure if you have access, try logging in with your school email address. So if you have a personal account, do not try that. Adobe Express and Adobe Podcast are free for educators K through 12. They're working on higher ed, having that login working and everything like that. But I also have this link right here that takes you to podcast.adobe.com. And what you'll notice is that, like I said, it is free. You'll be able to see the power of using Adobe Express integrated with AI-powered audio tools that help elevate your voice. If your district has AI turned off for some reason, I still believe you'll be able to use podcasting. It's just the AI piece that's included is going to be generating captions and also kind of helping tune out that excess noise that might come when students are recording. So I cannot tell you how simple this process is on Adobe Express. I'm going to walk y'all through it, but I just wanted you to know that it's podcast.adobe.com. It is free. if you click right here, you should see the same school account that you logged into Adobe Express with. Now, if we go back here, I really want y'all to understand that it is a process. And I have done podcasting with as young as first graders using Adobe Podcasts. So 100%, it's something that can be done with even the littles. It's just going to take a little bit more of you helping them more than what I did. So I won a grant for podcasting equipment year before last, and I got all of this stuff in last year, and I was so overwhelmed with everything else I was doing. I didn't have a whole lot of time, but my students were so invested in the podcast that I told them, okay, if you want to get going, you need to set all this up and figure it out yourself. So it was 100% student created and 100% student led. And the only thing I did was at the end, I listened to the episode and then I upload it on the platforms that we use. So the first thing I wanted them to think of is to define your purpose, right? So what is your show going to be about? Our whole series, our show is called Check It Out because we're in the library, right? But each student can choose different topics, different themes, different episode arcs. Like it can be a series, and they just have to think about something that they're passionate about. It doesn't have to be related to the library because this is my library aids. I didn't want to pigeonhole them into just it being something that they do as their job in the class that I have for them. So I really just wanted to hear about what they were doing and what they're excited about, what they're interested in, what they want to learn more about. So they have to kind of think about that stuff. And then you have to think, who is your audience, right? So for me, I tell them our audience is our students, okay? Because that's going to be who listens to this the most. Yes, parents are going to listen to it. I have it linked on my school website. We share it out on social media. So definitely the community is involved too, but the audience particularly is other students at my middle school. And so then they have to kind of decide what episode they're filming. Do they want it to be just them? Do they want co-hosts? Do they want to interview others? So they have to plan for that. And then we have the next part, which is they have to actually plan it out. Okay, so they have to brainstorm topics and make a list of ones that they really like. The one that they like the most, they need to start writing an outline for. I don't want them to overscript. Okay. So I don't want them to write it word for word because then it will sound like they are reading it and that's not authentic. That's not real world. And so I just want them to remember, hey, these are the key points that I need to mention. And then they need to decide on the length. I really prefer us to stay within a 10 to 15 minute length. That being said, I've had shows that are 2 minutes long for my kids that were just getting started and didn't really feel comfortable talking on the mic yet. And then I've had shows that were almost an hour. So I just try to give them this parameter to shoot for. It doesn't always work, but for me, I found that with middle schoolers and their attention span, 10 to 15 minutes is really pushing it. But I would suggest lower for elementary and then higher for high school that can actually sit or do other activities while they're listening to podcasts. Then you're going to want to set your roles. Okay. So because I have like 20-ish library aides, they're all in different class periods. So they had to like decide who is going to be the host of this episode or the interviewer, who is going to be like maybe they're co-hosting. So it's back and forth. Then they have to decide who their producer is. So that's going to be the person that sets up the equipment. And I know that I said I ordered all this podcast stuff. You do not need a studio. Okay. I want to make that very clear. You need a device and mouth, and that's it. But because we had won this grant, I wanted to make them feel like, oh, they're in a real podcast studio. So we did set ours up, but I just want to make that clear. You do not need to have all that stuff. It doesn't require any money at all other than their school issued device. And then they also need that producer person is also your editor when you're in post, where they have to go through and kind of make those edits and changes. And then I have my writers and researchers. A lot of times it tends to be the host that does that because they picked the topic. It's something they're passionate about. So they will write the script, they'll work on questions, set up interview times, things like that. And then we have our social media team, okay? And their job is marketing, where they have to create a graphic using Adobe Express that we're going to actually use as the cover art for the episode across platforms. And then we'll use that same one to share it out on social media. Okay, so like I said, you don't need any devices, but if you have like those little USB mics because you know students are going to go out into the school to do interviews with teachers or students or admin or anything like that, those little handheld mic things, they're like $8 on Amazon. So if you did want to invest in that, that's fine. We are an iPad one-to-one district, and so all my students have iPads with them, which, as you know, have like a microphone, and so they can use that. They record on using the app Voice Memos, which is already in their iPad, and then we can share it to the studio when it's time to actually put all of it together. I go through some training, or I will this year. Last year, like I said, I did not have time. And so the students had to set up the entire studio on their own. They had to read instruction manuals. They had to use the Googles to search for things. And they had to learn trial by error. They had to learn that independence part, that this is something I really want to do. Well, then I'm going to have to take the time to learn it and set it up because Miss Hunt isn't going to do that for me. And then I do ask for like a quiet space. However, it is not required. We have my podcast studio set up in my work office, back office. It's where like you cover books and you have like your sink for the library. You have like cabinetry, stuff like that. So we do have that place because both doors can close. But again, it is not necessary because the enhance audio option that I'm going to show y'all in a second, it filters out all of the background noise and it just picks up the voice that is speaking into the microphone, which is fantastic. I don't know if anyone has used those recording tools before in a class full of 22 kindergartners or, 30 eighth graders, but it gets really loud. And so this way you're not sending kids out in the hall, and they're able to record right there at their desk. So now it's taking time to record. And I didn't put this in here, but it's something that I found to be successful. Because my library aides all have different class periods, sometimes the person they want to do a podcast with doesn't have the same class period as them. So I started doing a Google Calendar sign up where they had to add an event to the podcasting Google Calendar of when they were going to record. It could be during lunch, it could be during their advisory, it could be before school, after school, and then that way they're on the schedule. No one else can use the studio at that time. And then we had to kind of talk about mic etiquette. And again, they learned that the hard way last year when they were speaking like directly into the microphone. And then when they listened back, they were like, oh, we're going to have to re-record this. They do test runs to check the levels because you don't want to be screaming in their ear, but you also don't want to be really hard to hear. And I tell them, don't worry about messing up. You do not have to start all over. The editing piece in Adobe podcasting makes it so easy for them to click on words and that they messed up on and delete them. After they have recorded, now it's time to edit. So what I do it all the time. I say, so I tell them to take all of those words out, as well as making sure they're checking that background noise because if they did not toggle on enhanced speech, it might have some background noise that they're going to have to filter out. You can add intro and outro music that is royalty free using Adobe Express in the podcasting side of it. And the editing is really easy. I tell them just delete the words that you messed up in. Like when you say, oh, I messed up, that's okay. You can just take that out and you can be done. Like, honestly, my students figured all of this out on their own by just doing practice. They recorded and then their script will populate after that and they will highlight different words and delete them and then it's good to go. So it doesn't take this huge, like, you have to know all of these things about the back end and technology and editing and writing and all that stuff. Like that can come later. But to start, it doesn't take much to edit an episode. After you've recorded and you've edited, now it's time to upload to a hosting site. So my podcast is on Pandora. It is on Apple Podcast. We are on Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and one more that I can never think of. I also am going to be adding it to our school website this year. We have a revolving slideshow at lunch for kids to know about when clubs are meeting, dress up days, all that kind of stuff. So I always do like a teaser for this week's episode so that kids can do it. Now, I have no timing on release for episodes. Honestly, I could do 3 in one day if the kids get them done. Or we could go a week and a half with no episodes at all. So honestly, it just is about their schedule and when they get it completed. I always add like a little short description of what the episode is about, the episode title, and the cover art. And all of that is sent to me in a Google Drive. So I use Adobe Classrooms, which is like a learning management system that is embedded inside of Adobe Express, where I assign the students the social media posts that they have to make for their episode. They send it back to me. I give them any feedback, comments right back to them. Then they turn it back in after they've made those changes. And then that way I already have the cover art ready to go. And then I just save it in a Google Drive that the students have access to so that they can see what their final product looks like, and they can have access to the MP3 file. And then I also use both of those things to make the YouTube video and iMovie. You do not have to upload on YouTube, but I found that my students in middle school, they speak YouTube language, and that's like really impactful for them to have it on YouTube. So just kind of, keep that in mind that the places you posted are completely up to you. I always listen to the episodes before I post them, just to double, triple check. But I've been so impressed with my kids as we've gone through this process together. Then you're going to need to promote it, right? So you can encourage teachers to play their clips in class, especially if you have like a media class or journalism class or something, teen leadership. We have that at our school, student leadership, because this is like a leadership thing. And also they might want to interview different teachers. And so we have morning announcements that are video that are every Friday. So we could definitely put an episode in there as well, or at least like a teaser or a commercial for kids to tune into our podcast. We did like a light launch last year, but I'm going to do a real big full push for it this year. Social media graphics, like I said, the students make them in Adobe Express. They share them with me in classrooms. And then I put them in a shared Google Drive folder that the kids have access to. We do posters around the school, different announcements on like the audio announcements every day. And then I'll put displays up in the library as well. We want to reflect and improve. Okay. So after a few episodes, you want to have students listen back and share feedback with each other. That's how we get better. And you have to have that conversation of what that looks like. I like to use a compliment sandwich. So I really loved this episode that you did on mental health. I wish that you had focused on maybe some more ideas of how kids can address their mental health themselves. But I love how great you brought up all these examples for how to find help if you are struggling with your mental health, right? Compliment, constructive criticism, compliment. Okay. It helps kids learn how to not take things personally, how to not get their back up and then they're defensive. And so it takes practice telling them how to give critique because we don't want hurt feelings. Everyone's new to it. And then I like to rotate roles. Now, that doesn't always happen. I have some library aides that had no idea what they were getting into when they signed up for library aid. And then all of a sudden now we have a podcast. So they're quiet and they don't really want to take the time to speak. So I tend to let them do the back end things like that. I like to celebrate milestones. Like this is our 50th episode. We're going to celebrate that kind of thing. So these are just teacher takeaways. If you're struggling to say why a podcast would be important, this is great information that you can take to your admin, that you can take to your reading teachers or any of your teachers, honestly, and know that you are supporting curriculum. This is something that gives students that creativity piece, as well as letting them have their voice and share beyond the four walls of our school. Okay. They also think they're famous because we have iPads. All of the students have iPod podcasts, like Apple Podcast on their iPads. And so it's really cool to think that everyone in the school could subscribe to our podcast and they could listen to episodes, and they'll tell them in the hall, I listened to your episode. It was really great. Like, it's really cool. I have listed a few resources here at the bottom. I would really recommend that you join the ACE Leader community if you are not already a part of it. We're like 25,000 strong around the world. It's such a welcoming place. It's where you can go and ask questions and get feedback. We use a Facebook page, but we also have monthly meetups that are optional, just so you can see what's new in Adobe Express or Adobe podcasting, and that you can also ask from other people that maybe teach your subject, how you use different lessons and different tools in Adobe Express. So I highly recommend that. And this, as we end, is just like a little overview of what it would look like. So I go to record a podcast. I hit start record. And then this is my studio, very basic. Okay. Start recording. I can even invite guests. So if I have a kid that's at another school that has access to Adobe Podcast through their school email, because it's free, you can invite them to record, and they don't even need to be in the same place for that to happen. I can also have them upload audio or video from their iPads on here. And then this is where you could add music, you could add a placeholder, you can do filters. And then you can also, once you get to export, you can choose an audiogram, which has the text right on the screen, kind of like you would see in a TikTok video or a YouTube video or something like that. But it always will come with a transcript that can be downloaded because we want to be good about accessibility. All right, so when I want to start recording, very easy, okay? I don't want to invite anyone, but if I did, it would be right up here. Make sure you use their school email. If I want to upload audio or video, I can just go there. And then, like I said, we have some options on the side of what that can look like. All right, here we go. It's going to ask this. I want to allow. Hey everyone, welcome to my podcast. I am here today with some awesome librarians from around the world to talk about the power of podcasting. Okay, so I did a couple things in there that I want to, I made a mistake, right? That was on purpose. So that I can show y'all about editing. But after I use it, this is where that AI piece comes in, is that it is transcribing the things that I said into a script. Okay. And what it's doing is it's going word by word. And when it's done, it's going to actually show me the script right here. Okay. So if kids stop and then I can record some more, it's still going to be on the same assignment, right? Like this one is, we're going to call it example 2.0. Okay. And so now I can even add more if somebody interrupted us, or I messed up so bad, or maybe the bell rang, and I want to come back later and do more. So that way they can keep working in this same studio assignment. All right. I can copy, I can correct the transcript, I can export the clip if I wanted the MP3, or I can delete it all. Okay. So it shows me when I click on one of these words where it is in my timeline of the 14 seconds that I recorded. So, hey everyone, welcome to my podcast. I'm going to delete that because that's not what I need. Podcast. Oh, I mean podcast. So I don't want all of that. I'm just going to highlight. I'm going to delete. And now, okay. So you have some settings here. It just changes the microphone. Now that I have my transcript exactly the way I want, I can go to export. And this is where you can download as a WAV file, as an MP3. I have my kids download it as an MP3. And then they just upload it in Google Drive and they send me a message saying that it's done. Um, they can also add me as a collaborator, but I really don't want anything to do with their, like, I don't want to edit any of their stuff. If I have notes or something, I will meet with them privately and say, hey, there were just way too many mistakes that didn't get edited out, etc. And then you can choose the size of what your audiogram looks like. Okay. I like to keep it as a square because that's how we post on Instagram. And then you can change the different backgrounds or the theme, and or I could upload my own background. Like we have our logo that we use for the podcast. I could show the speaker's name, but I never tell my students to put their name on anything. First name is fine, but they're never going to share their last name. So I always tell them make sure that that is off. The title should be on, and then I can see how long it is and how long it took. So then when I create audiogram, it's going to create this that can go along with my episode, so that we're being accessible to all of the people that might have like visual or audio impairments. We still want them to be able to listen to our podcast. Okay. I can also download the transcript without doing the cute little audiogram. And then I could also just download the original recording. So if I had Sally, she recorded the first half, and then underneath it, Madeline recorded the next half, right? Then I could download them as individuals, recordings if I wanted to. Like maybe Sally moved suddenly and now we can't use that. So I would just want Madeline's, and then I'd want to upload in a new studio assignment so that she can get a new co-host without having to redo her part, right? So those are just some of the things that you can do with Adobe podcasting. Hope you enjoyed it. That was fast and furious. If you have any questions, we're going to go back up here. This is the link to the session today. I am the Next Gen Librarian across social media platforms, so please reach out if you have any questions or concerns or are looking for more tips and tricks or resources. Thank you so much.